On the surface, you're successful, but inside, you know you're running on excuses and not alignment. With James Fleming, leadership coach and the author of the book, You Can Have Success or Excuses. You can't have both. I explore motivational intelligence and his mantra before you can have, you must first become. So your actions finally match the leader you want to be. Like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and DM Future to continue the conversation. My name is Arjan Visser, human centered futurist, and your host. James, I'm so glad you're here at the All Journey podcast. Let's dive in.
Listen, thank you so much for inviting me along. I am really excited about the conversation because obviously you run your business with your wife and so do I. So we've got a lot of commonalities, including the way that we think about leadership.
Absolutely. And I just want to rock the boat immediately. So start with, what if motivational intelligence is the ability to transform identity, purpose, and emotion into consistent self-generative action, even under pressure or uncertainty?
Well, that's an easy answer for me. And I'll tell you why, Arjan. That is what motivational intelligence actually is. It is it's our ability to identify and manage negative thoughts, self-limiting beliefs in order to overcome obstacles in business or in life and achieve our goals. You know, how our brains work, right? We feel successful and happy when our outcomes and our expectations are aligned. Now, what happens with most people? They either set their expectations are too high, or they don't take the right actions so they take inconsistent actions. Now, what a lot of people, and I know you understand this, what a lot of people are not aware of is our brain is taking in so much information, mostly negative information, a thousand. And what our brains is doing, it's basically filtering out that information. And it's the only information that passes into your subconscious mind is the stuff that you believe to be true. Everything else is dismissed. So really, what you're saying, the what if, actually is motivation intelligence. So we're on exactly the same line here.
That's it's so fascinating. Like, I shared with you prior to our recording that I wasn't aware of this being an intelligence level. Although you can put nowadays every word in front of intelligence.
Yeah.
But I love this one. Intrinsic motivation. It's the only thing that you have the ability to nurture
Yeah.
and make sure that it's not overwhelmed by external motivation.
Exactly.
And like you just mentioned, our brain is so addicted to protecting us that it filters out mainly the negative information. And before we know, we start to defend ourselves, protect ourselves, and we put our what drives us to the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does this differ from cognitive reasoning or emotional intelligence? The two topics we always hear about,
Yep.
but this is different. So how does it differ?
Okay, so the way that our brains work, so if you look at the evolution of the brain, the way that our brains work is, so if people believe that we are, a lot of people believe that they're making decisions based on logic, but we know that most decisions are based on emotions. So EQ, your emotional intelligence. So a lot of decisions that we make in life, and what NQ is your fight or flight, your chimp paradox, your little voice, if you will, that tells you, I don't think I can do this. This isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. You know, that little voice that, and what happens, the easiest way is to give you an example, Arjan. So what happens is, let's say that me and you, right, you've got high motivational intelligence and I've got low motivational intelligence. And we're both standing in front of this river, right? And it's maybe about a couple of 100 meters wide, and it's a fast flowing river. And me and you are both standing near the edge. Now you've got high MQ and I've got low MQ. And I'm looking at the river, and at the other side of the river, there's buildings going up and there's lots going on and it looks really exciting, right? There's lots happening. Now, someone with high MQ will probably look at the river, they'll look across the water, they'll feel excited about what's happening, and then the logic brain will start to kick in. Okay, how do I get across here? Because I want to be part of that. That's high MQ. Low MQ, on the other hand, is myself. I'll take a step towards the river. The first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have an emotion. So I'm going to maybe feel fear. And then what my logical brain does is probably say, step back. That doesn't look safe. That's danger. That's not good for you. So that's kind of what happens. So the first thing that happens is that fight or flight. And that is just whether you look at something as a threat or an opportunity. And by the way, the amazing thing, Arjan, is we get to choose every single day. Is it a threat or is it an opportunity? And you know, and I know that very rarely in today's world do we see many threats like we did in evolution. If you believe it in evolution, you know, very rarely do we have the same threats. You know, the lack of food. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for example, we don't have those same things any longer because we're always going to have food. We're always going to have some form of security. So what's happening in our brains now is we're still programmed the way we were hundreds of thousands of years ago, but we've evolved. But our brains still work the same way to protect us. And that's why most people believe that they are not comfortable with change. In actual fact, humans love change, but it's the fear of the unknown that stops us or holds us back when we have some kind of change that happens in our life or in our business.
This just triggers so many thoughts. Like one of the things that, and we see a lot around us, that people say knowledge is power and knowledge gives us enlightenment. But just as you draw the picture, that's all our subconscious brain.
Yeah.
Our conscious self-awareness brain, our part that really should make that choice to, well, if it should protect something, it should protect our freedom as an individual to keep thinking for ourselves and contributing our unique identity and value to others.
Yeah.
But we have to be very intentional because the autopilot falls back in, I don't like change. It should be predictable. Let's repeat the same bad things as yesterday. Then at least I know that I will not have less. Instead of, let's take the opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's take risk.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something better. Maybe there is hope.
Yeah. And a lot of people, at least in my world, a lot of people believe that you're either born with it or you're not. Well, I call bullshit on that, right? I believe NQ you can learn to be, take control of your thoughts. I want to talk about something you mentioned about knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is only power if you take action, if you do something with the knowledge. For example, nowadays, right, the way that the knowledge information, we can literally learn anything in a matter of weeks now because of the internet. So there is so much knowledge out there about what it takes to be successful, to have a successful business, all the things that we need to live incredible lives is in the public domain. Yet something is holding us back.
Yeah.
And that's that fear, it's that evolution. I think the statistics are in our brains, about 80% of all of our thoughts are negative and only 20% are positive. Now, for every equal and opposite reaction, the cause and effect. So if you're having more negative thoughts than you have positive thoughts, you're going to take more negative actions. Protect yourself, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, whether it's in relationships. For example, someone who doesn't believe that they're good enough in a relationship, well, guess what? They're right. They're not good enough because that's their perception and they're going to attract the wrong type of people. And it's exactly the same in business. If you don't think you're good enough, you're right. You're not good enough. You need to change that, and that is MQ. But you've got to identify it first, Arjan. You've got to be aware of what you're thinking, and that can be tough because we're having these thoughts happening so fast. Now, another thing to remember is our logic brain only takes 4 inputs a second. Our subconscious brain is 11 million inputs a second. So our subconscious brain is going into overdrive, while our conscious brain is one thought in, one thought out, one thought in, one thought out. Our dominant thoughts, our subconscious mind locks on to whatever thought that you're having more often. So that dominant thought and your subconscious mind goes to work. And we call it self-fulfilling prophecy. So we prove ourselves to be right, or we prove ourselves to be wrong, depending on how you think.
And we learn at our kids. When our kids are very small and they say, okay, I will try. We say, no, you're not trying. You will do it.
Yep.
You know, don't tell you will try it because you have already given the benefit of the doubt that it doesn't work. So it is about the intention. It's about your language. It's about the self-talk, the conscious self-awareness that ponders about thoughts. That's probably why we only deal with one thought at a time, and we can't handle that many thoughts because we are pondering about it. We go soul searching in with that input.
Absolutely. And that's exactly how our brains work.
Yeah, and it's our superpower. Our brain is limitless.
Yeah.
I always hear Jim Quick say that, and I love how he talks about that. And but just going back to motivational intelligence, MQ, I speak a lot about human intelligence. And of course, that is in the reaction of all those people who say AI is the next big thing. And I always throw in, well, AI is the fulfilled promise of the 70s. We finally can process content. And we even talked in the 90s about that we could do business intelligence. And now with AI, we can process the reports and have that intelligence. So, but human intelligence is what is our role with this new AI. And it is that combination between our spiritual maturity, like pondering the right questions,
Mhm.
emotional intelligence, and our cognitive reasoning, how that converges on the inside of us, supporting us being more and more human, and how it will embody in our leadership. So, could this motivational intelligence be the bridge, or is it the glue between our whole body, mind, head, heart, spirit?
I would say it's almost the glue that holds it all together, because as we discussed, I mean, this is a famous saying: if you think you can or think you can, you're right. And that's what motivation term does. It enables us to go, wait a minute, why am I having this thought? Why am I limiting myself? Why do I believe that my business can't grow? Why do I believe that I can't charge this much? Why do I believe? Is it true? And I always say this to a lot of my clients. Is there other companies out there who charge more than you? Yes. So that means it's both possible and it's plausible. Would you agree? Yes. So what is holding you back? But my clients can't afford that. Well, you've got the wrong clients then. You know what I mean? It's that thought process. And because remember, if you believe your clients can't afford your services, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They can. And that's why I think it's the glue, because they work, because how our brains work, right? Our brains are that's information and they work in a loop, right? And they go back and they go forward and they go so this is happening consistently in our brains, dominant thoughts, an emotional reaction, your MQ kicks in, and if their emotional reaction is high enough, i.e., fear, we fight or flight, and that's why I think I would say it's more of the glue that holds everything else together, because if you cannot control what's holding you back. And it's only me and you that get to make those decisions.
It's about like, what are you impressed by? If
Yeah,
you are impressed by the good or the bad, you position yourself under it, and it will shape you.
absolutely.
So if you think you can't do it or you think you can do it, that makes a difference, because it's how you will be shaped by the circumstances.
Absolutely.
And what you just said about then you have the wrong client if they can't afford you, that's not a money topic you address there. That's a mindset topic, not only of you, but that's the mindset of your client. If the client believes they are not worth it, they will never step into what you offer. You will never be able to manifest your value in such a way that they flourish. And you need them to flourish, because then your embodiment keeps on unfolding.
Yeah. So
It's your
think
identity.
yeah, think about what I said a few minutes ago, right? About um if you know, when you believe that you're too expensive, right? Your clients are going to know that. Because emotional intelligence is incredible. We can feel it. It's called a gut instinct, right? We know when someone's trying to sell us or something isn't right. So I always set the scene. Now think about the words that I use, right, and my team use. Arjan, we're not the cheapest, but we are the best. So I'm already setting that expectation of my clients. Don't think this is going to be a cheap product, but it's going to be a great product. So I'm setting that thought in their head right from the word go.
Yeah, and this is not what you say, fake it till you make it. This is alignment between your inner shaping, who you are becoming, and the manifestation to others to contribute actually to their journey in such a way it's valuable. So it's and we tend to say, "Oh, then I'll just fake it." Well, if you fake it, you don't believe it yourself. No, you are aligning with who you are. You're aligning your belief with who you are, your actions with who you are, your clients with who you are. So, in the big word that comes to mind is that actually this is keeping your momentum alive.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a saying, right? Not fake it till you make it. My saying is, before you can have, you must first become.
Yeah,
So if you want to be a successful business owner, you need to think and act like a successful business owner. If you want to be a world leading coach, you need to think and act like a world leading coach, because that's what manifestation is to me. If my dominant thoughts and beliefs are, we are the best at what we do, we are incredible, we will be the number one leadership company in the world. If that's what I'm saying to myself every day, then I'm manifesting that. Now, what a lot of people get wrong with manifestation is they think that they just have to think about something and they'll manifest it. But if they're thinking about something, say 5 or 6 times a day, positively, but they've got maybe 20 negative thoughts about the same subject, guess what? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. For every negative thought, there's an equal and opposite thought. So in other words, their brains, and remember, we're programmed negative. So the more negative information, for example, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but for example, I don't watch the news. I do not read newspapers, because most of it is programming my mind. Because most of the things that you watch on TV, I think about 60 to 70% of everything you watch on the news is negative. In fact, maybe even as high as 80 is negative social media. Now, I'm big on social media, I'm big on LinkedIn, but most of the stuff is negative. So we're actually swamping our brains with, oh, this whole place is falling around us, and this is, listen, it is what it is. We got to accept it. You've got to handle it, and you've got to move forward. We talked about this offline, with the government and how hard it is for small businesses, and it is. But you've got to believe, you've got to absolutely believe that you will find a way through it. whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I fully understand not feeding your thinking with the wrong things. Focus, stay on track, protect yourself from the noise. We have to realize that just having a future perspective and a vision is incomplete.
Mhm.
It includes a narrative, it includes the language to articulate what you see. And that's fresh language, new language, so that our brain doesn't associate it with past experience. And the action is in alignment with it, and we get that momentum. But listening to the news or feeding yourself with this is the opposite of your motivational intelligence, because
Exactly.
you're externally motivated on the fear side,
Yes.
which makes you take a step back instead of taking a step forward.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Arjan. That is how you put that there is exactly it. It's the negative noise round about us. It's the belief that things are really tough, and it's that constant um recurring thoughts that drive our actions. So if you have the right thoughts and beliefs, you'll take the right actions. If you take the right actions, you will get the right results. Yeah, cause and effect. If you have negative dominant thoughts and beliefs, you will take negative action. Negative actions means you will get negative outcomes or results. Cause and effect. I mean, and it's amazing how simplistic NQ leadership really is. And it really is about this. So we've kind of talked about it from a personal level. But having high MQ as a leader is as important, if not more important.
Absolutely. Because that cause and effect is not only in the status quo, that's also how the futurizing and getting language to articulate what you see that is on your horizon, how it works.
Yeah.
Because in that sense, you create a cause out of your vision, your identity, your perspective, which will have an immediate effect on your actions, your intentions. And again, you can only nurture, sustain this when you know what your intrinsic drive is.
Yeah. Listen, there's 4 pillars to MQ. The first pillar is vision, right? You've got to have a vision. That's a triggering mechanism, because if you can build a really clear, vivid vision of what the future's going to look like, then you can start to take the right actions. And the second pillar is potential, or our belief that everybody has unlimited potential, right? And all unlimited potential really means is, can you be better tomorrow than you are today? Of course you can. Yeah, so that's the second. The third pillar of MQ is adaptability. When things don't go to plan, when things go wrong, when we have failures, we learn to adjust, adapt, and move forward, even though we're getting these knockdowns. Yeah. I think Sylvester Stallone says it, about the sun isn't just full of rainbows. You've got to, get hit and get back up, get punched in the face and get back up, something like that. And that's really leadership as well. We've got to be adaptable to change. We've got to be adaptable. And then the fourth pillar of NQ is responsibility. Do what you say you're going to do. The buck stops at you. Don't point fingers and don't place blame, because if you as a leader are constantly pointing fingers and placing blame, what do you think your team are going to do? They're
Yeah.
going to point fingers and place blame. So that's the kind of 4 pillars of NQ. Now, if you only have one or two of them, you might see some success. The magic happens when you have all 4 pillars and you actually believe it to be true.
Yeah. And we all know that if we don't find all four corners, we will never be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And one of the corners we will be dominant, and that is connected to who we are and who we are becoming. But the others need a level of maturity as well, because else you have increased your blind spot and you
Yeah.
can decrease it. which your people love when you decrease your blind spot.
Yeah.
So I also want to address our listeners. I would nearly forget. I'm known for that. But I would really encourage you to just engage with us. So subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, or just DM Future to step up and continue this conversation. You had this amazing book title that I mentioned in the introduction. You can have success or excuses. You cannot have both. That really triggers something. When my kids grew up, we always sat with them, do I hear an excuse or do I hear leadership? And are you the big L of leader or the small L of loser? We actually brought it that small. We said,
Yeah.
big L, small L. Just do you react or do you lead? So your title really provoked my thinking and got me onto memory lane. I was just thinking like, what happened in your life that you just said, oh, now I recognize excuses. I recognize them somewhere else in businesses with my client, but I recognize my excuse that really make you shift gears, which ultimately led to this book.
Yeah. Well, that's actually an easy answer to that one as well. So first of all, my wife kept saying to me, "You've got to write a book about your story. You've got to," because I am honestly real working class. I grew up, in the 70s. I was born in 72. I had three sisters. We didn't have a lot of money. So my destiny was written to follow in that same pathway. But there was something in me, and I cannot put my finger. I don't know if it's my dad was such a hard working man, or he never took days off sick. I don't know what it was, but there was something in that upbringing that enabled me to believe that I was capable of more. Something, I don't know what it is, but something. Anyway, and I've never I've took a lot of wrong paths. I've got to admit, it's not always been sunshine and rainbow. I've taken a lot of wrong paths, but I've always been able to change the mindset and ask myself. I've been very good my whole life at self-reflection. Ask myself, is this the path that I want for my future? Yes or no? No. Change. And I've went through my whole life like that. So that was the kind of starting point. And then the success and excuses part happened a little bit later. So we're 2007. I was a father, and I was in my very first manager's job. I was only 34, and I was looking after, a multi-million pound business. And I was an engineer. I knew nothing about management. And I remember inheriting this team, and I sat them down, and I got everybody in the boardroom, all the senior leaders and all the management team and all the project managers, and I got them all in the office, and I gave them my vision. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And I'm telling them all these things that we're going to do. And everybody left that office and they thought, oh, it was a great speech and, great town hall, and this is fantastic. And nothing happened. Nothing happened. Because, and this is what will excuse success, I actually used to think to myself, what is wrong with it? What is it they don't understand about the instructions? What is going on? But what I was doing, I was putting my map of the world, my mindset onto them. And what I learned was that I was making excuses for my behavior, for how I was. So what I learned to do was I learned to stop and ask questions. So tell me, Arjan, I would ask, if how do you think, or for example, so tell me, Arjan, what exactly is the problem? And then sometimes we'd say, well, I don't know what the problem is, James. That's why I'm coming to you. And I would say, but if you did know, what would the problem be? And they would say, well, if I did know, it'd probably be And all of a sudden, the subconscious mind, and they're starting to tell the truth. They're starting to really open up. And then I would say, follow up with, listen, I think I agree that is a problem. What do you think the solution is? And then they'll tell you, well, I think we should do this and do that. And I would go, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And that took away the excuses. So anytime somebody came to me with an excuse, I would say, you can have success and excuses, you cannot have both. I need you to turn that excuse into an opportunity. And that was how I learned to be, I thought, a great leader, was that I empowered my people. And I went through my daughter's life, constantly telling her, you can have success, so you can have excuses, you cannot have both. And my daughter now works for the company. And by the way, I say that phrase probably every single day. I use that phrase in some way, shape, or form. You can have success or excuses, you cannot have both. So that was kind of where it came from. And obviously, my life evolved, and I started running even bigger businesses and even more people. And then I gave up all that life. Beautiful, living in the Middle East, had a beautiful house, swimming pool, fancy cars, and I gave it all up to start my own leadership company back in the UK, which most people thought I was crazy.
You're back in beautiful Scotland.
Back in beautiful Scotland, yes.
I like that because one thing you mentioned is that empowering people. That is used a lot, that language. Only most leaders don't expect powerful, free people. Well, you just connected empowerment to motivational intelligence. You fueled their motivational intelligence, their intrinsic motivation to contribute themselves. So
Yeah.
they stepped up in owning the issue, the problem. They stepped up in being part of finding the solution.
Yeah.
So they contribute to the vision. They become part of the whole construct.
Exactly.
But this really demands the leader to be open, vulnerable, authentic.
Yeah.
This is not a management practice. This is not mastery or skill set. This is truly being yourself, loving yourself as you love your people. And that is another gear set. It's another mindset.
Yeah.
But if you want your people to flourish, it's not even a choice.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
It makes it meaningful for them to show up every day.
Yeah. Let me give you a quick example of it in practice. So as you know, we do a lot of leadership development programs for really senior people, big businesses and organizations. And we always ask, whether it's myself or one of my team, we always ask them, do they have, like, out of their team, do they have their go-to people? The people that always get stuff done. And everybody says, yeah, yeah. And I'll say, and when you have a problem or a challenge, who do you go to? Do you go to your go-to people? Or do you go to always go to my go-to people? And I'll say to them, what you're doing is you're robbing the rest of your team of the ability to learn and grow and develop. I says, but yes, it might be quicker just doing it yourself or going to your go-to people. But what are you telling them subconsciously? What are you telling the rest of your staff? They're not good enough because they know you always go to the same people all the time. Rather than go to the person, explain it, say, look, Arjan, I know that, you're really busy right now and you've got a lot on, and I know this is something new, but listen, I know you're not going to get it right, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. What we'll do is we'll correct them and we'll keep moving. You can come to me and you can bounce ideas off me. But I really believe you can do this. I really believe you've got the skill sets, Arjan, to finish this project. So I'm building the vision. I'm telling them they've got potential. I'm giving them responsibility. I'm making them accountable. And I'm doing all that just by having a conversation. And that's how easy it is. But if we don't have those conversations, forget the good people, forget the high performers. If we're not having that with other people, then we're limiting their ability. That isn't unlimited potential. We are limiting their potential by focusing on the other people.
So true. So true. So instead of being stuck in a tunnel with your go-to people that you recognize for their potential, you probably have ignored as a leader that you put so much pressure on them that they're not even sharing their potential. They're probably just talking in the direction that meets your expectation.
Yeah.
And you don't tap into the potential of the rest of your people. So the team is not growing, the people are not growing, the go-to people will burn out, and the not going to people will leave because they're demotivated.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so easy. And in practice, it really means work on yourself as a leader,
Yeah.
because there is an excuse why you do not step up to those people. Probably because you have a limited self belief. It's
Exactly.
probably because you are afraid the mistake will backfire.
Yeah. Yeah. And the problem being is what you're doing is I mean, if you think about the word burnout, right? Now, I ran a program for the Scottish Government a couple of weeks ago, and we had 10 senior leaders on the program, and 4 of the 10 were actually going through currently at that moment in time having the conversation. They were in burnout. And then we had that conversation. So because a lot of the leaders believe they've got to know everything and they've got to have all the answers. And it's just not true. It's just not true. Great leadership. I mean, all leadership is your ability to influence somebody's dominant thoughts and beliefs. That's it. That's all leadership is. Whether that's good or that's bad. Because remember, you can have bad leaders who put negative onto their team and constantly on their case. So you can have, you can be a leader and be a bad leader, a negative leader, and you can be a leader and be a positive leader. And it's just how you communicate with the people in your team. And do you know all we do? It's just about asking really good questions of us and of the people that we work with.
Absolutely.
That's
So
leader.
how can people get hold of your book and get in contact with you?
So the book, we've got our own website, successorexcuses.com, or you can get it on Amazon. We've also got a podcast. So I've got a podcast called Successor Excuses, which is on all of the Apple, everything, YouTube, everything like that. So yeah, Amazon, the book's on Amazon. You can have Successor Excuses, you cannot have both. It's also on Audible. So you'll have my lovely Glasgow tone. So it's me that actually, me and my wife that actually read the book, because she's got a part in the book as well. Obviously, she's got a big part in who I am. So yeah, that's how you can get a hold of it. And it is a wonderful book because it's real and it's raw. It's not. There's no fluff, no bullshit.
Yeah. I will make sure that in the comments of the podcast, the link is to you, to reach out to you for LinkedIn, and also to get hold of your book and the website. Um, I really want to thank you. But before we bring this podcast to a close, what are the takeaways from our half an hour podcast that you think you take away, you want to mention again?
Yeah. So first one is before you can have, you must first become. If you want to be a successful business owner, a successful leader, a successful manager, a successful anything, husband, think and act like a successful person. So before you can have, you must first become. So that's the one critical point. And then being aware of people being aware of their thoughts and beliefs, whether it's around how much they charge, their current clients, whatever it is, because that mindset is driving that. Those thoughts that you have about your customers or clients or your products or services, they're driving your actions, and your actions are dictating your results. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I'm not getting the right results. What most people do is they change their actions. But it's your dominant thoughts and beliefs. It's your MQ that's driving your action. So what are you actually thinking about it? Because that's what's driving your actions. And I think that's my 2 key pieces of advice is before you can have, you must first become. And your dominant thoughts and beliefs always drive your actions, and your actions, right results, wrong actions, wrong results. Cause and effect.
I like those two. I would add the third one, find alignment between those two. Find the alignment between who you are coming and your mindset in your divine design, who you are created to be. Because you can't fake it till you make it. And you can't be someone who is not part of your design.
Yeah.
Your authenticity is rooted in who you are and your unfolding identity. So it's the inside work. It's become a leader inside out that makes not only your influence increase, but it also makes you able to keep the momentum.
Yeah.
Keep the momentum, stay motivated, don't burn out, and contribute. Those things that give you the fulfillment for life.
Yeah. We talked about something, I want to add quickly. We talked about something about our children. Leadership is as important at home as a husband, as a father, as a partner, as a wife, than it is in the office, if not more important. Because if you're not fully aligned, and this is going back to what you said, if you're not fully aligned with true leadership and that real human connection with people, it's not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a podcast in itself. So we have 2 more podcasts now on the line, which I'm looking forward to. I want to thank you, James. And I want to thank all of our listeners who stay tuned with us till the end. I really hope that something, and I know something, resonated with you.
Yeah.
Then I really invite you to not sit back, but take action. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, but more important, touch base with James or with me. Take action for your leadership, your identity, for your motivation. You're worth it, and so are the people around you, deserving you to be the best, the fullest version of who you are. If you can't wait for next week's podcast, I invite you to join the Alt Dialogue, which is an exclusive, inspiring peer conversation with those who understand that there is a bigger leadership question that matters. Those who want to ponder and process that question. Weekly meet, inspire each other, provoke each other. You're more than welcome to join, experience it first. Just DM Future, and I will make sure you get the right information. So hope to see you there. Hope to hear from you, and see you next week.